Welcome back, guys. It's Jason with your Hopium Free Crypto channel. Tonight, I am joined by Mr. Eric Crown of Crown's Crypto Cave. To make sure I get that right. How you doing, man?
That is indeed myself.
That is yourself. Before we crack on too far, there is a lot of comments about your hair in the thumbnail compared to now.
I do indeed have hair. Yes, it used to be shorter, and now it's like a mop on top of my head that has a whole personality of its own. I don't even know what to do with it anymore, man. I'm too scared to cut it. Yeah, that was
What?
that was in
Yeah.
2017, actually. That was in
All
2017.
right. So we had to answer those questions straight up for anyone that wanted to know. I know we're doing a serious open discussion of Bitcoin price predictions, but let's enjoy ourselves. All right, so 2017, we've got that. That's the hair. It's crazy now. We're getting old. That's what happens. All right.
Oh yeah.
Okay, guys, like, subscribe. Eric's details are all in the description down below. Twitter, YouTube. We've chatted before about the market cycles and what Bitcoin's doing. We were looking at it when I think Bitcoin was starting to grind its way out of that 30K low. From memory, I think it was a couple of months ago, and
Yeah.
you were contemplating the possibility of Bitcoin shooting up and then coming back down to fill a gap at around 31K, if I remember correctly.
About 33.
About 33. So we nearly got there. We got to 39, and I guess we'll have a look at that and see whether is that going to happen? Is it not? What do you think?
Yeah. It's well, I guess now would probably be a good time to share, I suppose.
All right. Yeah. Good point. Let's bring on the charts, and we'll go from like a recap of what we're talking about last time, and then get into this open discussion of the bigger timeframes of where we're looking for this end of cycle price prediction. Enough of me rambling. And people will ask, no, my eyes aren't red from smoking weed or anything like that. We just had that talk. I'm doing the typical Aussie thing. I've been out in the sun all day, surfing, salt water, burnt, etc., etc. Okay.
I like it.
That's my excuse. All right. Tell us what's going on. What are you seeing? And then we'll jump into some of my thoughts later.
Man, this Van guy's, he really doesn't like me. Anyways, yeah, man,
I'll get rid of
spoke, oh, dude, it's all good. It's the internet.
Yeah,
man, so last time that we spoke, we were way back here in like June, July, I believe, and I was kind of contemplating something like this, the old red line, the red magical line, of which it actually played out pretty damn well until about a few days ago when Bitcoin just spiked right up there. So with that said, man, at the end of the day, when things do change over, like 2-3 months, well, of course, the analysis is going to change as well. But for right now, man, that was a beautiful Friday rally, and a lot of things really changed with that as far as I'm concerned. I do still think that there's certainly a threat of a move to the downside. However, short term, Bitcoin probably extends this 1 to 50 or something. Could Bitcoin still come back down below 40? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've all seen crazier things than that, but it's just not the priority or the most likely thing to be happening right now. We still got that gap down around there, of course, from CME coming in late July, obviously, and several other things, some fibs, some major fibs coming in right there as well. I imagine if I do an actual, yep, there we go. That's 786 right there, of course. And well, that would also be a backfill on the last quarterly open, which has been pretty damn consistent throughout the history of Bitcoin's time. This is something that I put a lot more faith in traditional markets and Forex as well. But Bitcoin seems to play it out here too. We do see on the quarterly, anytime Bitcoin's had a reversal, it always, 100% of the time has come back and filled the prior quarterly open. You can see it right here on the last one. You can see Bitcoin coming back down right around there. This one was immediate in this case. You can see this one over here. Now, it didn't test it immediately, obviously, but where is that spike down in the flu dump, we'll say? Well, right there. What about back on over here? I think this one's rather obvious. Backfill and up, and same thing over here, and the genesis over here. So do I think it's still possible? Yeah, absolutely, it's possible. It's just, not the most likely thing to be happening at this exact moment. And as long as Bitcoin's above, especially $46,000, I don't really think that there's like a humongous threat of a, of like a nasty downside move, to be fair. For what it's worth, things are looking obviously pretty damn good right now. 5-day just closed yesterday. We're back above all major moving averages, and momentum.
Why do you use the 5-day?
The 5-day, I really
on a market that's open 24/7.
Yeah, so the 5-day and the 2-day are eerily way more accurate than the daily and the weekly for Bitcoin spot price action. What I also And if you just kind of want to smooth it out anyways, it's just, in my opinion, better to use CME. I think that chart usually gets things more right than spot price action. But if you're going to use spot exchanges, the 2-day and the 5-day seem to be a little bit better. The 2 days better than the daily, and the 5 days better than the weekly. They just seem more accurate as far as that goes.
Accurate in what way?
Just when you get like a signal on an indicator, they seem to play out a lot more. Like the degree of them is a lot more efficacious, I guess is the right and proper word right there. But yeah, man, with especially with this last 5-day closure that we got last night, and of course the weekly is going to follow here too. I mean, it's kind of a hard chart to hate, unless if the weekly were to come back down, let's say below 46 later today at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Until that happens, I mean, the path of least resistance right here is probably putting in another move back around about $50,000 or so. That would also be a test of the topside Bollinger Band right here on the daily. And then, of course, if we go to the quarterly again, it would actually be the top side right there. But here's the thing, with the way that Bitcoin closed the quarterly on, what was this, like last Thursday?
A couple of days ago, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not there. What I feel a lot more compelled by is not necessarily that Bitcoin comes down. It's, where we kind of end up around end of year or beginning 2022. I mean, this is very obviously bullish right here. We have a lot of good things working for Bitcoin here. First off, nice little reversal off the lows, closing back above the topside Bollinger Band in this case. So, you're typically looking for expansion in that same direction. We seem to also have this like just weird interplay on the quarterly as well, where anytime the prior wick low has not been taken out, it's generally continuation. Anytime that we have seen the prior quarterly wick low being taken out, those have been all of your macro corrections, actually. You can go this one over here. You can go this one over here. You can go this one over here and over here as well. All of those, being between 60 and 80% corrections, of course. And while these look really, really similar over here, they're not. They're all rising by about $100. This one about 27.7. This one about 28.750, and this one about 29.300. So, the end of year looks really, really good. Obviously, fundamentally speaking, there's an ETF extremely likely along the way, at least from what my sources tell me, end of this month to early.
You got some inside sources.
Yeah, I've obviously, I've been around some people who trade on CME and who are a little bit more, in line with that. I used to have a lot more of a closer ear when I actually worked down around there, but they say that it's extremely likely. And I don't think that that's like insider information at this point. I think it's rather obvious, especially with the way that Gensler has been speaking about this. He seems very much in favor of an ETF, obviously. So, and probably a futures-based one, but I don't see any issue with that. It's probably gonna be the same result as what we saw for CME futures, way back on over here, where Bitcoin
2017,
just put in a humongous rally from 5,000 to 20,000 on the announcement. So, I do think that end of 2021, beginning of 2022, it looks pretty damn good. So that brings up the question of, what sort of long-term areas are relevant to be looking at here, going in with that sort of an interpretation. Well, going back on over to, where's my charts over here? Yeah, the log curve zones is rather interesting to myself. Not only that, I also have a 21E on there as well, but we don't need to focus on that right now. Pretty damn simple chart right here. Green zone, typically your accumulation zones after doing the old blow off top that Bitcoin likes to do. Yellow zone is kind of like your mid cycle correction, and then red zone is typically your blow off tops.
Yellow is like the part where it psychs you out.
Right, exactly. And that's exactly what we got last week here. There's a few wicks below. That's completely fine. But this is a damn good recovery coming into the end of the weekly close. And obviously the 5 days already done it. And so I favor that over the weekly anyways. So I look at that as very likely to work its way back through the yellow region, which would actually probably put us around prior all-time highs in this case. I don't necessarily know about today, but perhaps later this month or November looks pretty damn good. And then breaking out above there, where's the top side of the red? Anywhere between about 110,000 and about 135,000 bucks. So that's also in line with a few of the things that I'm looking at here. If we just look at weekly prior breakouts, I mean, Bitcoin has a pretty standard way of how it likes to play out these moves. Anytime that Bitcoin's put in a reversal on the weekly and, well, essentially just made new all-time highs off that reversal, it's played out. Well, we can just, go through it together. This first move over here from the Genesis, 460%, not bad. It reverses over here, makes a new high, 225% up again. That was actually, that's actually going to be the lowest one, just in case you happen to care. Then this one over here, obviously a humongous one, you know, whether you take it on a wick or a closing basis, 1500 versus about 2000%.
Were you measuring from the breakout to the top?
Yeah, I'm going from the breakout on a weekly closure to the next high. This one about 700% in some odd change. We got this baby over here, another pretty damn big one, about 450%. And then of course the legendary 2017 one, right? Which was about 1600%. So, you know, just going off the average right there, you know, on the low end, we saw about 200%, or, you know, a little over 200%. On the upper end, we saw ridiculous numbers, which
I think it was 29. Yeah.
Yeah.
29%.
I don't know how relevant those are, but, you know, if we were to just play around with numbers right here, where are we at right now? Well, so far, Bitcoin's put in about a 200% move. So that would be an outlier on the lower end. Possible that we've topped out there. I don't think it's very likely, however, based off the hash ribbons indicator. But you know, what if we just took the average of that? It's probably somewhere around 400 to 600% actually. Well, where does that put us around? About $130,000 actually. So rather interesting right there. The question is, you know, what does the whole trajectory look like, right? Because, you know, one of my good friends said something very profound one time. He said, you know who gets liquidated the most in the Bitcoin bull market? Longs, actually, because everyone's over leveraged. and so what I've been keeping a keen eye on over here is some quant data, of which the global leverage ratio is a big one for myself. And we're kind of creeping up there again. And anytime that this thing gets above 0.175%, I mean, that was the last September 7th dump. That was, you know, what, $10,000 move to the downside. Of course, that was also the highs thus far, the all-time high, April 2016, or sorry, April 16th, that is. And then a big correction that we saw back on over here in November of last year. That was to the tune of about 30%. So, you know, on the low end, about 30%, on the upper end, 50, 60%, which is definitely relevant. and we're kind of creeping up there again. So my fear is that Bitcoin's going to, or it's not necessarily a fear, but what I think could definitely happen here is that Bitcoin, you know, extends this move a little bit more. People start levering up. We already see that over here with the open interest starting to shoot up. Again, it's not super high right now, but it's starting to get in some, you know, some more interesting areas. And then we get to wash them out again, because that's just the way that this market works. It's a game of liquidity, and it's a game of leverage right now with these exchanges that have 100x leverage. You know, these moves are just insane. So with that said, you know, you can still see that it has a little bit more to go over here, but realistically, we see a lot of these great bases in Bitcoin, like a lot of these really, really good bases that have launched humongous rallies down around the 0.1% region for the global leverage ratio. That's what we saw on the January correction at the beginning of this year, when Bitcoin was put in about a month between 30 and 40,000 bucks before launching off to the orbit, another 2x. And then same thing over here more recently in May, we got all the way down there, just washed everyone out. And that was, you know, that was a pretty impressive move, all the way from about 30,000 to 50,000. So that's kind of what I have my eyes on right now. And, you know, a lot of that would be concerning for like a short-term, medium-term move in the grand scheme of things. But as you know, I mean, as everyone here knows who's been watching this as for even just a few months, you know, those moves can be really, really nasty and wipe you out, even if you're going to be right in the long term. So that's why I do still kind of entertain that possibility of Bitcoin, you know, potentially going back down below 40. But it's just not really, in my opinion, actionable right now. Or not really even just like a, you know, a major consideration, especially as long as we're above about 46,000 bucks. If you want to be super conservative, you can say 45,500 or so. You know, that's kind of where I'm at right now. And you know, there's a few other things to be aware of as well. Of course, you know, I regardless of whether Bitcoin does do that or not, I do strongly believe that the actual, you know, low is in. I do not believe that Bitcoin's going below 30,000 bucks, barring any sort of a black swan event. In that case, I mean, that mostly comes down to the hash ribbons indicator, which I don't know if I spoke about last time I was on here. If I did, it was before.
Is this your blue circle? You gave us the blue circle pie.
Yeah, exactly. And so it probably didn't fire off by the time that we did it, because I think I was on way over here. But once that blue buy signal happens, the prior daily low, in this case, at about 37.5 or 38,000 bucks, you know, that kind of solidified itself as the low. So if we were to come back down, which we have seen in the past, I wouldn't expect a closure below there. Just kind of expect like a more or less painless, in the long scheme of things, but like a painless, just quick wick down, boom, back up. something like that. And what would that look like? It would look like a nice W pattern right here too. So, it just depends what sort of time frame you're looking at. Like very long term, good. If you're more in like the short and medium term, I mean, very short term is good, obviously, as well. Medium term is kind of where it's like, okay, there's still some threat of a downside move here, but overall, I'd be looking at that as probably a major opportunity if I am thinking in the more long term fashion. But yeah,
So
man.
if you're trying to scalp, like, it's sitting at 47, call it 48,000 now, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh man, I missed out buying it at 41,000, and you want to just make back that 15, 20%, it's probably not going to happen in the short term because we've just switched.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, if this is going to happen, it's going to take a little bit of time. I mean, very short term, yeah, Bitcoin probably comes back down to 47, but that's not the move that you're looking for, probably.
Yeah.
Um,
And then it will suck everyone back in again.
Right,
Everyone's like, oh damn,
right.
I didn't buy it at 41 because that you can see now that's where the support was coming in, all the
Right.
the demand was coming in, and then we crush through 49.50 and then get back to that 53 top. That's
Mhm.
just suckers more people in. We'll probably
Yeah.
go green on what was the other charts you had up there in terms of the leverage trades?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
These
we'll
big
go.
ones up here.
We'll get red. Sorry, probably maybe go quickly into the red, and then it just flushes
Mhm.
everyone back out
Yeah,
again. And it seems like
yeah,
that's what's happening more this cycle. Like everyone's sort of into it, and they're like,
absolutely.
okay, I'm smarter than the market, and they want to jump on, leverage
Yeah,
up, boom, smack them back down. Too scared to get back in, it goes back up.
right,
And so we're just getting like
exactly.
this longer, drawn out period, like we had in 2017, but just in more wild fluctuations.
Mhm. I mean, totally. It's
Mm.
the thing is like, look, I'm saying this as a trader. It's not very wise to leverage trade in this market. Like, you don't need to. Uh-oh, did we
Especially if you're unfamiliar with leverage trading to begin with.
yeah. Oh yeah. Well,
You don't need
here's
to.
the thing.
The moves are so big. I think
Mhm.
people, because they come into this cryptocurrency and they're like, oh man, what am I going to do in a bear market? Or I want to make more money.
Right.
I want to leverage trade. It's like they don't realize coming from a traditional market, you're used to doing 0.5% a day or 1% a day. So if you get 10x
Exactly.
or 20x, okay, maybe I can make it worthwhile today. We made 10% or we lost 5%, But here you're making 10% in an hour.
Yeah, it's possible. It's definitely possible, but man, it just goes to show that we're so spoiled with these moves. Like we don't even
Yeah,
appreciate
true.
them. You know, like you'd have to wait, a decade for what could happen in a day or even a week in Bitcoin land. And then
So
and
true.
even then, people don't want to do Bitcoin. They want to do altcoins because they can go even more than that. And it's like
Yeah.
fair enough. That's completely it's completely your prerogative. But just understand, like this market is risky, no doubt about that, and it can be very, very ungenerous as much as it is generous as well. So the main thing in a generally up market, in a general up into the right market, as you said last time that you were on my channel, is you just want to stay in the game. You don't want to put yourself under
Yeah.
too much risk. I mean, when I was trading on traditional markets, with like a professional badge, actually, we had access to four times leverage, four times your
That's
margin.
it.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. And that's for assets that move at like, on like $100 name, maybe moves a couple of bucks in a day, right? In Forex land, you probably get like 500x leverage, but those move in like not one decimal places, and that's like a tick. In Bitcoin
Yeah,
land,
one pip might be $10, and it's like that.
yeah,
No one's making billions of dollars off $10 pips. So you need the
exactly.
500x per pip, and yeah.
But the thing is that we have 100x leverage available to us in cryptocurrency land, and Bitcoin moves in $1,000 increments, and it's like not even really, breaking any ranges, for example. So
Yeah,
it's a recipe for disaster. And I imagine that we've been seeing over the past year that most of these exchanges are just getting washed out, right? Binance has some litigations against them. BitMEX obviously had some. I'm at Bybit's gone KYC now because they probably want to avoid it. Same thing with derivatives. Same thing with all of these wild west exchanges. And I think that these days are like kind of coming to an end, especially when an ETF comes around, which I think that we're kind of clearing the way for. I think that's over, and probably this thing starts to become a little bit less volatile. Still there's kind of like there's kind of just generally low liquidity in this asset, but without 100x leverage, it should probably be a little bit better, I do imagine.
well, that's if they start bringing in like non-physically settled contracts. if we're still settling things physically, it can be as wild as hell, because if everything's taken off the exchange and you have to settle physically, that could end up being like a run like we saw with oil, where oil just dumped so hard.
Yeah.
If they need to store it everywhere, it's like, can't do it. Just sell the oil, give it away, pay people to take it. And so we could get something crazy like that with Bitcoin. Yeah, it's like, well, we need to settle Bitcoin. Just buy it at any price. It needs to happen. And then it just shoots straight up. So I think, those futures settled in dollars rather than Bitcoin would probably stop that from happening.
Yeah. And it's an interesting thing too, because people, for whatever reason, have like a major aversion to that. Like they hear cash settled futures and they think, oh, it's manipulation. And like, yeah, I mean, we're all market manipulators just by existing in this market. But, think about what that actually means, right?
Well, let's talk about market manipulation, but I'll just mention, we will get onto like price predictions for the end of this cycle as well, is what we were coming here for.
Right on.
Just want to touch on that. And I was just going to say, with the manipulation, people always go on about Bitcoin being manipulated. It's the altcoins that are so easily manipulated.
Yeah.
A little comment. It's just accumulated, pump it out on social media, and then dump it on the public. That's just pure easy manipulation for token holders and people who generate those things. But sorry, man, go to your price predictions for the end of cycle, and we touched on it at the beginning as well.
Yeah, I think we kind of got it mostly. I'm looking anywhere between about 110 and 130,000 based off of the log curve zones, based off of the prior percentage weekly gains after breakout, and then also based off of some fibs as well, which I actually haven't thrown up here. But it seems like we like to kind of top out somewhere around the 2 to 2.272 fib extension from the prior cycle. Pretty consistently, sometimes around the 2, sometimes around the 272, but you can see it over here. That's the 2. This one actually a little bit lower, but that's not necessarily a cycle high. This one is, and that's the 272. Got the same thing over here at the 272 and 414, right in between there. And this one, where's the 2 spot? It's right around about 120,000 bucks. Could Bitcoin extend it all the way to the 272? Yeah, I mean, maybe we get like a quick wick up there and then slam it back down and really scare the ever.
Where's up there? 272, is that 183,000?
That's about 180,000. Yeah. The next one up is about almost 250,000. So, how Bitcoin moves. I mean, it can definitely do that. It's just, I would be looking at the closing prices is what I'd be looking at in this case.
Yeah, exactly. We get that big wick up. Where is that going to put us at a multiple from the previous all-time high? Because that usually comes into play. Like, people usually reference that. And we say the previous one was $1,100 top and it went to 20,000. If the last one was 20,000, we only make it to 120. It's only 6 times.
Yeah,
compared to 17 times.
Well, let's see. I mean, has this been diminishing over time? We have this first one over here from what was this, 2011, right? 2011 high was about 25 bucks. Your high in the next cycle was about 1,200. So what is that? Like 50,
a lot.
It's a lot. Let's see, on a percentage basis.
48.
I mean, it's
48 times.
It's a ridiculous amount is what it is. I think it would be relevant to say that it probably does diminish over time. But, at the end of the day, it's not so much about like projecting a forecast of where the high is going to be. I mean, that's great for like YouTube analysis and YouTube video titles and everything. It's about identifying when the high actually goes in, right? And, we've all kind of been there if you've been around for like the last 3 years, even, where Bitcoin loves just ended on a parabolic below off top. And, then things move pretty damn fast actually after that.
Speaking of that, I'm pretty sure everyone here, because, they follow me, they follow you, hopefully, and for both of us, they kind of understand that we're not some sort of channel that's like, this is the indicator that will tell you the top.
Yeah. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. Yeah.
I don't know any people that know that. You've been on the floors in Wall Street. That's not how it works. It's like,
it always goes higher.
Which indicator I have to click on TradingView to tell me what the top is.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, there's absolutely no way to get that. Just areas of interest and then kind of watch price action and see what happens. But
what would be your signals that you look for rounding top, if you want to talk about those?
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
There's a few things.
For a major top? For a major end of cycle top? Or is this kind of, okay.
Yeah, so I want to see a few things in conjunction with each other. I have a few indicators over here that I kind of pay attention to in those sort of scenarios. And one of the big ones for me is advanced decline ratios. So kind of like a volatility based indicator, but anytime that we start to spike up in these regions over here, you're probably looking at a major high. It's not always going to be a macro high, obviously, but anytime Bitcoin putting in a major high, it is always getting there. I also have this indicator over here. This is PMARP. It sounds fancy. It's not. It's all it's doing is giving you the percentile away, or sorry, it's giving you how far away current price action is away from whatever moving average or well, in this case, yeah, I'm using a volume weighted moving average in this case.
Okay, so it's that white line in the middle. It's how far away it is.
The middle is just an average of that. And actually, this thing seems to work pretty damn well too for kind of calling highs, but not necessarily macro highs in this case. The most obvious. Yep.
Yeah, you would just layer sorry, I'm just trying to like explain it. Well, understand what you're doing. You would then go and layer a few of these tools that are in your toolbox to try and give you that perfect.
I'd want to see things in conjunction with each other. Exactly.
Sure. Yeah, there's not just a one-off, and then it's learning how to read each of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just looking at this right here, I mean, this is actually a bullish setup for what it's worth on the PMARP. I mean, we just kind of corrected down exactly the moving average. And, we don't typically put in tops until we get into like 95 percentile plus. So, this thing can run, no doubt about that. The question is, how long does it take? And then, of course, the old tools over here as well. If we start to see weekly bearish divergence, probably going to be a top. That was our top last time, or more recently, of course, before that in 2017, of course, before that in 2013, 2014, and so on and so forth. Obviously this last one, which we did get bearish divergence on 3 drives, actually, which I would argue it probably needs to be about 3 drives in order for it to be super interesting. At that
drags,
point, what? 3 drives of divergence.
Right.
So, for example, I want to see something like this on like a major high. We got 1, 2, 3, boom, boom, boom. Where's our highs in August? Right here, and down after that. Something like that. So, this one did actually fire off over here, to be fair. However, I mean, we did correct like 50, 60%. I think it's very relevant to say that.
I think that means it works. Like, the thing that I teach, I go through Gann swing charting, and that's what I teach in the Investor Accelerator Premium. And going through the swings, which there's not an indicator for it. You have to learn how to draw the swings, understanding the rules to swings. That sold us out at $50,000 Bitcoin, and it got us back in at 37,000.
Perfect. Yeah. And that would actually bring me to my probably most important point. It's the best indication of an all-time high in Bitcoin. It works every time, every damn time, but it doesn't get the ultimate high. It just gets the trend. Weekly trend every time. Every time the weekly trend is reversed, it's always been it's always been the macro high. The weekly trend is very, very consistent here.
A macro high, yeah. That's what I had through 2017, because there was 1, maybe 2 times after the all-time high has been broken that the weekly swing, which again, there's not a tool. It's learn how to draw it. A small weekly swing was broken, but then it gives you another entry signal, and you don't miss out by that much. You just get back in and keep running with the trend.
I mean, to be fair, that one played so technically, it comes back and fills every time. This is so nice. This one over here just kind of zoomed off along its way, but as soon as you get the slower high over here, it's game over for a little bit of time.
Lower, exactly. And that was the last time Bitcoin really behaved like an altcoin.
Yeah.
2017.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's been a lot more, I think, kind of normal over here, to be fair.
More difficult, yeah.
Yeah. That's a good question, man. I'd like to ask you, do you think this market's gotten more easy or more difficult over the years?
I think Bitcoin's definitely got more difficult.
Interesting.
There's definitely more stuff going on where before you wouldn't, like, stuff meaning there's more fake outs and areas to be aware of. Whereas before it was just like, I thought there was all these fake outs, but it just kept going, because I was used to the traditional markets where it's like it fakes you one way and then the next way. And then someone's trying to play like 4D chess in it, and then it takes off. And so you just got to be ready like all the time. It just wears you out. Whereas this was just like, just buy and hold, keep buying all those dips.
Pretty much. I mean, again, it just depends on what sort of time horizon you're on. You can see that things generally trend up and to the right. And I'm pretty sure I just got that saying from you, man, last time that you were on my channel. It's like, yeah, that's really what it is. That's where it's going. Like that. But that's the thing is like, people in general, especially if they're newer to trading, they don't like a lot of the time judging these sorts of things is rather simple. It's very unsexy. So people want like the indicator, like the one thing. There is no one thing. If there was one thing, it's going to be weekly trend, but that's not going to get you the ultimate high. As you can see over here, gets you out at 16,000 or so. But when I actually got out during this time back in 2018, people thought I was crazy. Like, what are you talking about, man? It's about to blast off again.
The market sentiment was ridiculous then.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It should have went to 50,000, and we're like, we should be going to 100,000. Like that's all it was.
Yeah.
We're at 20,000. We should be going to 100. And people are like, no way we're going down. This is just another reboot before we go again. And that will we know 100%. That's going to happen again. And to talk about it online is just you're just going to get wrecked by people telling you that you're wrong. Like, okay.
Yeah. Well, of course, man, it's the internet. Everyone has an opinion, and fair enough. I mean, that's the democratization of the internet. But the problem is you don't know who's on the other side of the screen. It's like, okay, does this person have any experience? Should I actually be listening to them, or is this person just like just mad? It's like, all right, fair enough.
99 times out of 100, I'm sure it's just they're mad. They wouldn't be watching otherwise.
Very true.
Not speaking about the guys here, of course. It's when we get to those tops that people go crazy.
Yeah, your community is pretty, very, very chilled out, man. I noticed that. Actually, Elsa made a comment on that last time. That she's like, yeah, they were great. Cause sometimes you go on a channel and it's like, whoa, don't know what I'm gonna get here.
No, I'm quickly looking at the comments every now and then, and it's just this. Yeah, everyone's sweet as. AJM says, drinking game every time Crown drops an F-bomb, but I don't think you don't drop any F-bombs on my channel.
Yeah, man. Yep. Of course, I'm going to respect the culture here.
Respect the algo.
Does that really influence the algo? I know that they care about the flu word. They really don't like that one.
That's true.
No, they really don't like that one, man.
I think they care about that more than swearing.
I think so too, man. I think so too. I've seen some weird stuff. I've seen some very weird stuff.
Yeah. But then you start to polarize people with that. So.
Oh yeah. It's like a touchy non-discussion.
I know, right? So looking at this, we're going around that 110 to 130. What would you say would be a signal to say we're not going to get there?
Okay, what would be a good signal?
Short, maybe we only hit 90 instead.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Okay, so what would I kind of be looking at? Oh, good morning to you. Sorry, my girlfriend just woke up and it's like 1.
Oh wow! Morning, Elsa.
Man, she was she just got back from Spain actually, so she was up all night. Yeah, man. Okay, so the question is basically, what would you be looking for in order to kind of judge or at least like flash like a warning signal that hey, the high might actually be in now.
Something that you can put in a YouTube title. Bitcoin flash this warning signal, those sort of things.
There's another pretty consistent thing over here on the monthly, especially for the Bollinger Bands. When Bitcoin starts trending outside of them, generally that's our like, okay, it's game on right now. Things are looking good. You saw
trading outside of them to the upside.
Yes, exactly. So volatility is expanding and also price action is trending. So in this case, really, really good. In this case over here, really, really good. You kind of see it all the way through. If Bitcoin were to, let's say, start to trend above there yet again, which we haven't done just yet, to be fair, and then come back down, that's like a big warning signal, like you saw right here. Like this was a big one, obviously, on the monthly specifically. Can you also use it on a weekly? It's a little bit less tested on a weekly. On a weekly, it kind of takes on a slightly different meaning and interpretation. You want to see it first kind of trend above and then put in what's called like kind of a failure over here, where you get something, signaling indecision. In this case, you get a doji right there, right? And then the Bollinger Bands start to collapse in on it. So that's going to be a pretty damn good warning signal that we might have at the very least a nice consolidation coming up, and maybe it is a high. Other than that, man, the only thing that's it
doesn't mean that we always go back and test the underside of the Bollinger Band.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah. No, it does not. I mean, it usually it implies that you're going to test the median of it, which is a 20 simple. So yeah, we come down there obviously, and then if you're bullish, you're typically going to hold it. Is kind of the ideology. If you break it, then yeah, you go and test the bottom side of it. But you can see that we never really trended below it either, and you get the same sort of bullish signal over here, and that's really where I started to look for that move up to the deep 40s. So, is Bitcoin going to have a chance to do it again here? I think so, probably, maybe later this month or in November. And then if it starts to come back down below, then it's a warning signal yet again. And then you start to look at trend. Maybe you go down. Maybe you even front run it out of daily as well. Like that was a really good warning signal over here. Obviously, I'm sure that you caught this one too. But I was bullish over here. I always am going to be. I was bearish over here. That's your lower high.
I didn't know you then, but I've got mine on the channel too. Those specific days in
really?
April.
Okay.
Yeah, mine was more Gann rules. I was looking at 3 days down from an all-time high.
Yeah.
Then we had the break, and then 11. Right. It was basically 11 red days for me. I know there's a green in there, but for me it was all lower highs, so they're all red to me. 11 days. We had not seen that ever. And then it started to rally again into that May point, and everyone's like $80,000 Bitcoin. It was so bullish. And then you got the lower top
too. Yeah, that was so technical. It just comes up right to the 618. Boom. That's your bull trap every fucking time. I mean, usually. Sorry, dropped it. Sorry, my bad.
Dropped it. You better do a shot. Okay.
Apologies, man. But yeah, the daily trend, again, a very unsexy sort of type of analysis, but it works incredibly well. The second that Bitcoin came back down and took out this prior low over here, or even this one over here, if you're super aggressive, that was your warning signal. It's like, hey, it's time to be on lower high watch, not necessarily like full bull ahead, right? I got a question for you, Jason. Do you believe in the moons?
Well, yeah, they're there.
I'm not saying like they're Swiss cheese or something, man.
You're talking about like the moon cycles and planetary.
That's like the big meme in the market.
I did a video on that specifically, and it's something that I've used for years.
Interesting.
And it sounds ridiculous because everyone says, "Oh, it's astrology," and what are you going to read horoscopes, all this sort of BS? But it's actually what controls people. Like it's no surprise that when you get a full moon, there's a lot more chaos on the roads, in the hospitals. Like everyone knows that the world over.
Right.
Ask any doctor. So it affects people. And who's trading these markets? People.
It's very true, man. I mean, I want to kind of push back on an idea like that as well, just out of
pushback,
like a just a reaction. It's like, what are you talking about the moons? But you look at the chart over here and it's like, okay, I actually calculated out. It's better than a 90% win rate. So sometimes that's better than I trade sometimes too. That is better than
the majority of people. Yeah. Yeah, and it works really well in this market because there's a lot of emotional people, new investors trading these markets. I don't say that in sort of derogatory way to anyone watching here or anything like that, but that's what these markets, we know that's what these markets are made up of.
Yeah.
And so it's much easier to react to that because a lot of people react to these with emotions. You can't get up me that. Even Coin Bureau says it. So take it up with Coin Bureau.
Well, I mean, that's what a chart is. It's just kind of representing people's emotional reactions to whatever the underlying asset is. And then I'm sure someone's going to say, but bots and algos trade, make 80 to 90% of the trades. You're right. But who are they programmed by?
Exactly what I say every time.
Right.
They're programmed by people. Yeah.
There's also something a little bit interesting over here as well with this fib time extension. So I pulled this one from basically the last macro breakout in October 2020 when Bitcoin made the new highs above like the last major weekly highs. And I kind of consider that, okay, we're, it's macro bull again, just get along and go away. And I took it to pretty much our current highs right here. And so far it's been working incredibly well as well. And what do you know? We do have a major extension coming up on later this month, 20 of October. That's actually a lot of the presumed dates for a decision on many of these ETFs that are being proposed. So I'm very interested to see if this one pulls up as well. I mean, they're both kind of similar ideologies in my mind with, the moons and Fibonacci's, like it's nature, right? But stuff that, people are probably just going to absolutely ream me across the board for, but, it wouldn't necessarily be my main driver as far as decisions I'm making, but it's kind of hard to argue with the results right here too. Same thing with the moons, like, all right. I mean, you can hate it, but seems to get them rather well.
I mean, people want to hate it, but it's just a mathematical thing when you think about it. It's just this is what happens every so often. And then I've even gone to use other numbers from like the cycle of Venus. I think that's
Interesting.
224 days, or Mercury is 84 days. And then you start to play all these things together, and then
Right.
the numbers that show up time and time again. It doesn't have to be the exact number. It's, there's some leniency
Right.
a few days either side. There's the thing of the Saturn return, it's like a 28-year cycle. And so there's all these cycles just play in together. And when all the cycles come together, it causes a much bigger correction or a much bigger reaction in the market. And
Yeah.
if we're looking at bigger cycles, there's one coming up the end of this decade, which is why all this craziness is happening. Yeah. Check out this book. I know we're going to get a little bit off track, but check this thing out.
Oh, please do, man.
The Fourth Turning. That's pretty epic.
The Fourth. I have that book.
You got this?
Yeah, I just started reading it too. I have it on Audible. Yeah, man. It was recommended to me, and by a trusted friend. So it's interesting to see you call it out as well. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
definitely.
That's like the shorter cycle, the 80 to 90-year cycle as well.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Man.
Stuff is getting really crazy, and then it's up to us to fix it in the next 20 years after this decade.
Oh, man, thinking about that far out causes me anxiety.
No. So looking back here, end of cycle, Bitcoin 110 to 130-ish. And the main thing is, we're going to have to look for signs to see whether we are on track for that, or if the signs are showing us that potentially we're going to get a bit of a shift. Like maybe we're going to fall short of it. Maybe we're going to go blow through it. But at least if we got a bit of an idea of where we're going, just like anyone would. We get an idea. We get a roadmap in anything that we do. We're going for a drive to a destination. You have an army that has to have some sort of idea of what they're doing. This is all what we do. But then when it comes to cryptocurrency, it's always like, no, I need a definitive answer of what the top price is. It's like, no, it's just some things that we're basing it on.
Well, the problem is that there's going to be people out there who will give you an answer for that, and it's like, good luck. Good luck.
Yeah, it's leading them, to failure.
Yeah, I mean, you might be right here and there, definitely, but over the long period of time, I just haven't been able to see it be done. But just another thing, I don't know how we are on time or anything like that, but
no, we got a few minutes.
Oh, cool.
We got time.
If Bitcoin is going to put in another downside move, I actually do think that it'd probably happen, probably around early to mid of this week, or maybe at latest like early next week. I mean, we actually have, speaking of the moons, a bear moon coming up tomorrow, I think. And then also just kind of looking at this right here, I mean, this would be yet again another technical correction to the top side of the Gaussian channel in this case. Last time we did something like this, where Bitcoin cracked back down below it, rallied back up, rejection, and good night for a while. And that's pretty consistent amongst the history of time here too. So, I think this next week is going to be very, very interesting, especially for myself. If Bitcoin starts to come back down below, let's say like 46, that's at the point where I start to get a little bit more, all right, maybe this thing corrects first before we see any sort of interesting, and sustained upside move. That's like the real breakout. Because also right now, and tell me if you agree with this, and the people in the comments as well, but tell me if you agree with this, just kind of perusing around YouTube, Twitter, all that good stuff, and looking at headlines and whatnot, like the optimism is back, it feels like.
From that one day, it was really, we were basically pretty bearish about 3 or 4 days ago when we hit that 41K for the last time. And then all of a sudden it just flipped from that point. So I think quite a few people are thinking it's a bit of a trap for the short term.
Could be.
Yeah, I'm not sold on it being a trap just because we've been down for this part of the cycle. And I think this next, like, we need to swing from bullish to bearish. So I don't think the bullishness is over just yet, but I'm not saying we're going to new all-time highs from this point either. And
right on.
It's possible that we get a bit of a consolidation as well. If you start to draw a wedge between the highs of 65 and 53, and then across the bottoms, we got like a descending triangle. Maybe you could find a wedge at some point where we get the low in at 29K and this current low of 39K, and you start to wedge it that way. And then we just get like a longer drawn out accumulation before we shoot to the moon on an ETF announcement. Maybe we get a double cycle again. We shoot up for this part of the cycle into the end of this quarter or early next quarter, and then we dump off for another 6 months, and then we take off for another one. And I think that'll confuse some people thinking, well, it's the whole cycle. But I would see that this next top we get would probably be the end of this cycle, and then we might go into another cycle, something like a 4-year cycle that Bob Lucas has talked about. Have you ever seen his channel?
Yeah, he's pretty interesting. It's got a good take.
Good take, yeah. So he's looking at it in terms of a
He's the old timer, right?
Yeah. Aussie guy
Okay,
lives in New York.
Interesting. Yeah. He's I always pay attention to the old timers, man. Like those guys, experience. You just can't trump experience, man.
No, and he's not in it for the fame or anything like that. He's just doing it, make some cash on, while you're doing your trading and help people out.
Yeah, help yourself and help others, right?
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, trading, it's just kind of you're in your room by yourself.
Believe me, I know. That's why I started my channel, man. I was just kind of, I was literally living in a cave. It's kind of getting kind of weird, lonely.
True. All right. So, anything else you want to share with us on these Bitcoin price predictions, end of cycle price predictions?
I think that's it, man. I think that's kind of where I'm at right now. And do things evolve over the next few months? Probably, yeah. But we can always come back, and hopefully I can have you on my channel probably next week if possible, or the week after that if things don't work out.
I'm keen to get on your channel.
Let's do it,
some
baby.
live streaming. All right. I'll ask at just one last question. We've got some price predictions, time frames. Do you ever look at time frames and measure those out to give a bit of a roadmap of what's going?
Of like when? When you'd be expecting those sort of things?
Sure.
I don't. I like the only thing that I can really think of that I'd put any amount of weight on is these fib time extensions over here. The problem is though, is that I'm running out of extensions on this one. So I suspect what's going to happen is we're going to do something like this, right? Where, assuming that this is the reaccumulation, which I think that it is, the question is kind of not, is it, but when do we resolve it? Then we kind of pull it from the high to the low, and maybe come up with, some areas of interest over here. And I wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable saying like exact dates. I just say that there's some areas of interest as far as dates go.
That's very interesting. 19th of December. That's exactly 4 years.
Yes.
And that's a solstice as well.
The 20th of December.
Around that 21st-ish, 22nd.
And then there's
I pay a lot of attention to that. I know people are like, oh, it's just seasons. I'm like, hey, your food is grown per season. People work on seasons.
There's a few of them overlaid over here, but those ones certainly stand out. And then always quarterlies kind of stand out to me as well. Seems that we always see a reversal on the end of the quarter, whether it be to the upside or the downside. So that means your late Decembers, your Marches, your Junes or Julys, I think.
September.
Something like that.
June.
And then of course the one that we just saw recently, which I think is a reversal back onto the upside essentially.
That was a September equinox, full moon, like everything was coming in on that date.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, it was autumn equinox. Yeah, there we go. I got them all like named out over here. In Silica made a great indicator for this. It's pretty interesting.
Look at that as well. Look at the summer solstice. Came in pretty close to some turns in there.
Yeah, that was pretty much the low.
The other side to this is people go, well, it picks up every single date. And then when I started, Gan does a lot of this, like all of his stuff is on astrology. And when I started, I'm like, yeah, but it's picking up every single date. I've got like a day, every freaking day I have to look at. But as you start to work with it, you go, oh, okay, I know, I kind of understand which ones I should be picking, which ones I shouldn't be. And some are going to have small turns, some are going to have big turns. And you got to start to marry a few other ideas together, which is exactly what you were talking about earlier with your indicators. You're like, I've got all these indicators. Some of them have major turns, some of them minor corrections. You just have to know at the time.
Confluence typically good.
What's that?
Confluence typically good. Typically something's going on.
Exactly. We're up, down, or sideways. So that was the conclusion. Up, down, or sideways. Any part.
The classic TA. It can go up, it can go down, and it can even go to the left as well.
We're just gonna all we're trying to do here is fill in the black part to the right.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, general messages, man. I'm looking up around end of year, very likely new all-time highs, probably somewhere around 100 to 130,000 bucks if I had to guess.
All right, and you think it could happen quickly, or do we have to start to grind from now, or could we get to like late November, then all of a sudden for 3 weeks we're off to the races?
Oh, you know how Bitcoin moves, man. I mean, if an ETF gets announced, which I strongly suspect it will, again, either late this month or early next month. And by the way, later this month, October 20th, I do have another extension over here, by the way. It's this baby right here, October 20th. You know, if an ETF gets announced, I'm just basically looking vertical until whenever the debut is, and that's probably going to be, you know, your next major high for a long time. And
That's true.
that
Do you
was
remember the last one?
yeah,
'Cause it was
I do exactly remember the last one. It was late October as well.
it was
And
late October, so it was about 2 months until they were ready for it.
yep, yep,
Okay.
yep. And Bitcoin did a 4x from that price point, right? So
Man, if we even got a 2x from 2 or
this is good
3x
enough
from
for me.
50K. Yeah.
I feel like we're
100
already
to
on the moon,
150.
man. This is good enough.
I know, right? Guys, if
I
you haven't
mean,
already, make sure you subscribe to Eric's channel. All the links are down below. It's in the title, it's in the description. Go to Eric's channels, and I'll be over on your channel some point in the very near future.
absolutely.
Thank you very much. Around our 110, 130. I think we'll have another discussion on your channel, probably about something similar. I'll go through my GAN
Yes,
stuff. Yeah, it's exciting times.
absolutely.
Maybe talk about
Absolutely.
some Carderpo.
Let's do it, baby. Let's do it.
Excellent.
Thanks for having me on, man. It's always a pleasure to be here with you and your community. And thank you.
No worries. No worries. We'll get to some comments another day. But thank you very much.
Take care, man.
See you soon, man.